Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you are tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, Season 9, Episode 6. So, before we get started, I just want to let you guys know that I am considering doing a live viewing next week or possibly the week after. And the really cool feature about this is I will probably use Super Chat, which will allow you guys to be able to chat with me live, but also ask your questions. It is a paid feature, but I know a lot of people have asked me if I do sessions, which I do. I do sessions remotely. A lot of my sessions are virtual because most of my clients are not in Florida. But if you want to maybe engage or ask some questions, personal questions, you can do that. Based on what you pay for is kind of what you get. So comment below. Let me know if you guys are interested in that feature so that I can kind of plan and give you a heads up when I'm going to do the live stream. But more than likely I will do it, and I'm excited to do it because it's another way for me to get to talk with you guys. So that's one. Two, before we get started, don't forget to subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be the first to find out when I post these videos. All right, so let's get started. Last night's episode was a snooze, okay? It was a long, they jam-packed a lot of nothing in an hour and a half. They came back from the honeymoon and they all moved in together. This season they gave them each their own, and they've done different things each season, but this season they had a place for each couple. So each couple got to see each other's places. They decided to spend the night at, whomever's house they decided to spend the night at when they first came from the honeymoon. And it gave them a different perspective of each other. We saw Jamie's place, very regimented, no surprise there. Elizabeth's place was all over the place. Greg has a beautiful big home. Everybody's place was very reflective of themselves. We saw them meet the pets, and if you're a pet owner, then you know how significant that experience and that exchange is with somebody new. And so we saw all of those quirks. But like I said, last night's episode was kind of boring, so I'm just going to kind of talk about a couple of the things that stuck out to me. I love seeing Pastor Cal come in and meet all the couples and talk to them about where they are. This is the first time that we have seen all the couples really be in a good space at this point. There was nothing drastic that happened on the honeymoon. Sure, there was like a little, fight here and there. I don't even like to call it a fight, like disagreement here and there. But there was, we've seen in the past where these couples have come back and it's like a danger zone 5 days in. So he came into a pretty pleasant experience, all four couples, and they got to kind of talk about things. It's really imperative that the experts are there and available to help them, because marriage in itself can be quite difficult in terms of just really learning each other and figuring out what you want it to be, what you expect it to be, how your expectations mirror reality or not. So there's a lot that goes on, but I think specifically with this experiment, a lot of people will say, well, that's not realistic that they have someone, but this is also not the standard way of getting married and meeting and all that. So I love seeing when the experts check in on them and talk to them, and Pastor Cal is like one of the best. So he's super relatable. So he met everybody yesterday, and let's just kick it off with, I would say, Greg and Deonna. So Greg and Deonna, they're still doing okay to me. I think they have potential. I think there are some things that could possibly ruin the situation. Deonna tends to be a little cold. Greg tends to be a little more giving, but he is he might be a little overgiving in the sense that it may not always feel genuine. I think it's genuine because he just seems like that type of guy. But it's not necessarily what he thinks, it's really how she perceives it. And a great example of that is love languages. So before I jump into that, Pastor Cal gave her some feedback about, listen, don't stop him from giving you these compliments, because people are out here wanting these compliments and they're not getting them. And I've seen a lot of your comments. A lot of people have been saying the same thing, and I agree to a certain point. You definitely don't want your spouse to stop them from giving you compliments and to kind of quench that. You don't want to do that, but you also want it to be genuine, and you also want to hear your spouse. So for example, love languages, I don't know if you guys have read this, but the 5 languages of love, it basically has this inventory that you take and you get to see what your love language is. and they are words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service, and gifts. So the cool thing about this is we get to, if you do it, and you can do this online too, you guys can look it up, and there are surveys online, but if you do it, you find out what your love language is, like what resonates the highest for you, and you also find out what your significant other's love language is. The interesting thing that most people do is we tend to give love in the way that we want to receive it. So I made love gifts, and so my natural inclination is to provide my partner with gifts. I love you. I'm showing you I'm loving you. Although that might be nice, if my husband's love language is physical touch or quality time, I can get him every gift in the world and he'll appreciate it, but it won't resonate for him because that's not the way he needs it. So it's twofold here in a partnership where you recognize how that your partner is showing you love in the way that they know, but then you also have to be accountable and learning how your partner perceives love and demonstrating it to them in that way. Because I saw somebody's comment and I haven't gotten a chance to respond to last week's video because I posted it yesterday, but somebody said something like, what if this is who he is? She needs to stopping him from giving all these compliments. And in a way, I agree. Like, she doesn't need to stop him from him showing her love, but he also needs to be aware that that might not be something that she needs all the time. Maybe she needs acts of service. So he needs to also recognize that what she needs may not be what he likes to give or what he naturally gives, and he has to learn her as well. And we don't want anything to be overkill, you know. If you say, babe, you never tell me I'm pretty, and he said, you're pretty, you're every single day, you're pretty, and like 10 you're pretties all day long, it becomes like, you know, let's toss a pretty out the window. Like, it becomes insignificant. And I don't think it's like, well, she needs to be grateful somebody saying something to her. It's deeper than that. If we look at like the partnership and the wholeness of marriage, there's certain things to figure out. Now, I think because she comes across cold, people are like over her. People are like, she needs to take that and she needs to accept that. But I think beyond how it comes off, which can be like a little cold, a little jarring, these are the things that we need to pick up on. And if anything, the purpose of me doing these reviews is to kind of pull out some of the things that we identify as a train wreck, that we're like, oh my God, I can't believe they're doing that, and recognize that sometimes we might be doing that, or find a way to learn from what we're watching and things that we can take away. I know my husband and I, we've taken that inventory and we figured out what our love languages are. And one of the cool thing about love languages is that it changes. So it depends on the season of life that you are. If you're freshly married and you have all the time in the world and nothing to do, maybe your love language is gifts. Maybe it's physical touch because we have all the time, and then maybe we have a child and now my love language goes from gifts to acts of service. Do the laundry, love you, like that might show me love. So it's really cool because the love languages, if you find that your love language right now is like quality time or something, that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't change over time, because relationships are evolutionary, people are evolutionary, so we're constantly changing. Other than that, nothing really stuck out to me with Greg and Deonna. I think that they're hopeful that they can continue to work. They seem to be willing to and excited to kind of move in together. We get little hints that Greg is wanting a little more from Deonna. So I hope that she doesn't use the I've been single so long that I don't know how to do this excuse too long, because that keeps coming up. Well, I've been single for a long time. I haven't had to be intimate or do anything basically that I haven't wanted to do in a long time. So I'm now giving myself time to get acclimated to this new thing and these new expectations. And I get it, but you got to speed it up because we only have 8 weeks. So if you're planning, and that's another thing, if you're planning to do this experiment or anything like that, you gotta let go of all the excuses, because none of that matters. Like, if you're willing to do this, then you gotta step it up, because it's not really fair to the other person. So that's Greg and Deonna. Next we have, who am I going to do next? Iris and Keith. So Iris and Keith, once again, I think they're doing really well. The thing that strikes me with Iris and Keith is their compatibility in terms of how they balance each other out. Keith is kind of thoughtful and he's patient and he's pretty much straight-laced across the board. Not straight-laced as in not fun, but you know, he gives you like a baseline mood. But fun, you know. Iris is high energy, as we know. She's very high energy and she freaks out a lot, okay? And so we saw her yesterday. They spent the night at his place and she was kind of rifling through his stuff, which on one end I kind of get that, kind of like, okay, I just met you a week ago, you're my husband, let me look around, let me see what makes you. I don't necessarily know going into that drawer, you know, that drawer by the nightstand, that's a very interesting drawer for most people. And she found something of interest. She found the empty box of condoms, and so it takes her into a tizzy. And I knew it would, because I think it would take anyone into a tizzy, even though we know 6 days ago I didn't know you, 5 days ago I met you and married you, but like there's a natural you know, green envy, jealousy that comes like, oh, this empty box of condoms, and what were you doing, and who were you doing? All these things come to her. I think what heightens it for her, which is more of a her thing, like her insecurity, is that she is a virgin. So is he really going to be patient for me? Can he really wait? Like, is this just an act? Is he going to leave me because I'm not ready to have sex, or we haven't had sex yet, or I don't know when we're going to have sex? And who are you having sex with? Are you having sex with a bunch of people? And now I'm like, there's all these things going in her head. And she goes into this tailspin, and you know, I thought he was very thoughtful in how he responded. You could tell he was like, come on girl, like, we were probably all thinking like, okay, I get it, but you have to move on because people have passed. You know, there's life before you. There are other people before you, and it is what it is. So even putting yourself in that position is kind of a moot point, because what matters is now. Okay, the relationship is now. And so he was very thoughtful about how he addressed that, because that could have become a thing. But I think the way that he addressed it, and he said, listen, I brought some to our honeymoon just in case. And, you know, she even takes some out and she's like, there's only 3. The box is empty. And he's kind of like, okay, like, you know, I'm not gonna lie about it. Essentially, he didn't get into it, but essentially I've been using them. That's why the box is empty. And she even says at some point, like, she knows that it's something that is about her. And they have this cute moment where they're like, you know, you belong to me, those lips are mine, and they move on. It's cute. We see a lot of neurotic tendencies with her, with the shelf liner while they're moving in, and she has a lot of little quirks. It's cute now. It won't be very soon, and in a way that they balance each other out, it'll also poke at each other, because she will want him to like rise where she is, and he will want her to to come down where he is, and it's going to irritate him, because we've already seen like little things that slightly irritate him, and I think on the flip side slightly irritate her. So if I could advise them, I would just say, and her really, I would just say, just calm down a little bit. Everything doesn't have to be so perfect, so regimented. We see, you know, she has one sink for washing hands, one sink for washing your face. Listen, all that stuff is out the window. You have to create this new society that is the two of you, and the rules have to change. And it's not easy, but she does have to make room for that and not let everything be a big thing, because that will wear the both of them down very quickly, and that will cause a break in creating intimacy, because it'll be like every little thing. And because they haven't built that intimacy yet, it will get in the way of even creating it. I mean, it can wear down people who are intimate and have a great connection, because it's just annoying nuances. And some stuff, yes, has to be addressed, but some stuff doesn't. But I don't want kind of the way that she naturally is to get into the way of them creating something, and it possibly could be. So that's really my only concern for them. And I talked about this on the last video, them kind of highlighting their lowlights all the time. Like, let's talk about the things we can work on. Let's talk about the things we can work on. What they will do over time, if they don't balance it out and say, okay, this is the stuff we can work on, but let's talk about 3 things that are great. It will just have a heavy focus on what's not working. And when they get to the end of this 8 weeks, it'll be like, here's why we won't be together, because all of these things won't work. And it's so easy. If we saw a white wall, and most human nature is to see this stuff. If there's this white blank wall, it could be miles wide. We won't see that it's all white. We will see that one speck, that one black speck on the wall, the size of a pepper. We will see that and we'll, oh my God, why is that black speck on the wall? In actuality, the entire wall is practically clean, but we tend to hyper focus on that stuff and make it the wall. So I hope that they don't do that, because they have the tendency to be able to do that. So that's Keith and Iris. Next we have Jamie and Elizabeth. So Jamie and Elizabeth, you know, it's funny to watching them together, because they're so different. I thought Jamie was gonna lose it when she got a glass and got her dog's water in like the drinking glass, and I cringed, because that was mortifying to me. So I completely understood how he felt about it. For him, he says, you know, everything has a place. Like, obviously my, you know, stuff for people and guests and myself would be separate from what I'd have for my dogs. And she doesn't operate that way. Like, it's a free for all with her. So it will be interesting to see how they get along, and how they move in together. But Jamie is still saying that he's excited for it. And I think what he's excited for is just maybe her helping him relax, because he knows that he is a certain way, but he does know it'll be work. He's not pretending like it won't be work. She's excited to kind of be this tornado in his life and and rearrange things, and I could see her doing that for fun, like literally rearranging his things that are so perfectly just to get a rise out of him. You know, trouble lies there. I definitely expect there to be some quirks and some nuances, but I don't remember anything that really bugged me, but except for the dog thing, that really bugged me about them last night. We kind of know what it'll be, because we can see the dynamic. We've seen the dynamic in the last few episodes, so I don't really have much to say about them, so I won't waste too much time. So that's Jamie and Elizabeth. If you find something, please let me know. Last but not least is Matt and Amber. So Matt and Amber, there's a lot of stuff going on with Matt and Amber, okay? Their paths are loud and proud right now. And all of our paths show up where we are, okay? You don't necessarily outrun them. You can process them and work through them, but a lot of the things that trigger you as an adult are usually connected to some experience in childhood or some past experience, okay? So they are matched, and they both have issues of abandonment. They both have issues with their families, in terms of that connection. Like, she's close to most of her family, but the connection with her mother, which is like the most significant person. His parents are divorced, and their whole relationship is not going well right now. They were close, and we haven't seen any of his family, so there's issues there. With Matt specifically, he is used to a very transient lifestyle, because he has played international basketball, professional basketball internationally, for, I don't know, over 7 or 8 years. He pretty much lives out of a suitcase, and he's been okay with that. Where I'm seeing the struggle with Matt and things not lining up is, I think that he really wants, I think there's a part of him that's really committed, okay? The part of him that's committed to planning roots, because he's smart. To be thinking about life after basketball is really smart. Let's not let basketball injure you, and you're never thinking about something that's really important, and then you have nothing going on, which happens to a lot of athletes. Like, they just think that they'll ride the wave forever, and eventually there's no wave to ride, and you know, they haven't put thought into it. So the part of me that believes he's committed to a different life is the one that has been thinking about, okay, what do I do after this season of my life is over? The other part of him that worries me is the part of him that is accustomed to being on the go, accustomed to not knowing how to stand still and be quiet. It's not necessarily that it can't happen, it's just that it hasn't happened, and he's not used to that. We all know people who are so on the go, and they like to be on the go even when they're not. They like to be busy. They're not necessarily productive. They think they're productive, but they're busy, but they like to be busy. And sitting in stillness and sitting in the reality of, maybe I don't always have to be busy, or maybe I can just sit still. They don't know what to do with that. Not because they can't, but because they haven't done it, and therefore it's not comfortable. That is what's going on with Matt. And this experiment is causing him to sit still and to have to like think a little bit and be aware. And he doesn't really know how to do that well he doesn't really know how to gel with another person. A part of me, and it's a small part of me, because I don't think that he did this experiment to say, hi, I'm going to have fun and just see how this goes. I think that he was intentional about doing it and wanting it, but another part of me feels like that doing this experiment was to prove something to his family and prove something to himself, almost like a stick it to you, even though I don't think he had like the malicious intent that a stick it to you comes with. But my parents didn't work out. I'm so angry. I'm going to show them and myself, but really them and everyone, that I can do this. And so in the idea of settling down and planting roots, then naturally marriage comes along. But when we see Amber jump in and talk about, Matt, forgot his last name, the fifth, their child would be the fifth. When we see her talk about that, he's uneasy. When we see them talk about, how to balance the finances, which he got very offended by, balancing the finances in order to support him being there, we see him take it a completely different way. We see him when they move in together, which was very interesting, just to let you know how individualistic his mindset is. All the pictures that he has is of himself. And I get it. Maybe your stuff isn't anywhere. This is the stuff that was in his car. But the 2 photos that he has is really of himself. Like on the nightstand, he puts the photo of himself when he was younger, which was just, it was like I wouldn't say it's a red flag, it might be a little hot pink, but on the nightstand, you would, ideally you would have photos of yourself. And I know it's early on of the couple. It's early on for them. They've known each other 5 or 6 days at this point. So they may not have any framed photos together, but it was just really interesting he shows the picture of himself, and she's just happy to get glimpses of who he is, because she doesn't have family to go off of. And he puts it by the nightstand, and then they're in the kitchen. They put the pictures together from their little Polaroid on the fridge, but then the next photo he takes out is himself, I think in middle school or something, and his dad is in the background, but it's of him. And these are the things that he has of himself. He doesn't have anything outside of that. So this is going to be way more difficult than I think he even knows. He doesn't know how to be part of a duo. Okay, the only team he knows how to be a part of is his basketball team, and that's a completely different dynamic. Even sharing the bathroom. Now, the way he did it is concerning. He's wanting his space. He's wanting to be separate but equal. He's wanting to just, I'll be here when it's convenient, but I still want my own space. And I love that Amber is no nonsense. She's like a bite-sized grenade, because she's like, what are you doing? Why are you in this bathroom? Why aren't you sharing a bathroom with me? Are you my roommate or my husband? I don't have sex with roommates. I love that she just plays no games with him, because he needs that. And he doesn't, in his mind, he's like, well, I just thought it would be cool to do this other bathroom, and you'd be happy to have your bathroom. This is the excuse that he's wrapping his mind around. There's a reason why the immediate moment that you move into a space with someone, you go take the other bathroom as your own. Not as an additional, but as your own. Whether he recognizes it or not, subconsciously he's separating himself, because that's where he's comfortable, my own little space. And so he wants to almost if you played hopscotch back in the day, he almost wants to hop in and out of each square. I'll go be a husband when it's time for sex. Because all these guys who have commitment issues on this show, they're never not committed to the sex part, but everything else, I find that they struggle with. The ones who do. Some of them are all in, but the ones, kind of like Dave from last season with the other Amber, they had sex every single night, but he wasn't sure the whole season. What a time not to be sure. So we see him kind of separate himself, and that's concerning. And I'm glad that she was in his face about it, but it's also it shouldn't have to be that way. Now, I will say for most women, our dream is to have our own closet and our own bathroom, but that's for vanity purposes. I want to decorate it the way I want, and I want my own little, we do things differently as men and women, but it's not necessarily with the intention of having this little separate space that you're not allowed in, and this is mine. And and I have friends who have their own bathrooms and stuff like that, but their husbands go in there, and it's not, the energy around it is different. So that was kind of concerning for me. And when Pastor Cal came in, if you noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Matt and Amber were the only couple that he spoke to separately. And I think that was intentional too, because they seem to be on different wavelengths, even though I think they enjoy each other and they're making it work. But like I said in the last video, I don't necessarily think that Matt would have chosen her if they were at a bar or if they were at a event or a festival. I don't think they would have connected. They talk separately, and you can see that Amber is very giddy, but she's not completely clueless that something is off and she should be concerned about something. But you know, you could see she's all in. The biggest red flag of the night for me with Matt is when he was talking to Pastor Cal. He said that, you know, it was like the whole wedding to him was a little, or the whole experience has been like a little, you know, shocking, a little overwhelming, and that he does enjoy her. And he even says like he could see himself falling for her. Pastor Cal asked that, and he says yes, but I don't believe that 100%. And one of the things that he says is that he hopes that she doesn't just wake up and like change her mind because it's going so well. But then he follows up with, and I hope that I don't change my mind too, or I hope that doesn't happen for me too. That was like the red flag for me, because here's the thing. The way that he said it was to soften the blow that he probably feels that more strongly than anything else. It's almost like when you're breaking up with someone, I don't even know if people still do this, but it's not you, it's me. It's like taking off the responsibility so you don't seem like the jerk, even though you don't want to be in the relationship, or you're not into them. You're not going to say it's not you, it's me with somebody that you're really into, but you want to soften the blow of I'm not into you, so I'm going to make myself the problem because I can take ownership of that. I can take it off of you, and because I really don't feel bad because I do want to leave the relationship, it's easy for me to just make myself the issue. So for him to say, you know, I'm just worried she's going to like, you know, wake up and just snap out of it. There's no indication based on Amber's actions that she would wake up and snap out of it. It's him who is just demonstrating all of these behaviors that are a little jarring in terms of consistency, in terms of being together, in terms of long-term nature, wanting, you know, possibly bringing up going somewhere for over half a year. All of these things are like red flags, red flags, red flags for me. So I don't know what to come of them. You know, I really don't. I don't want to make a prediction so early, but I don't see it going long. You know, it might go past the 8 weeks. It might, but I don't see there being longevity. I hope I'm wrong, because I love love, and I love to see people get together and be happy. So I hope that I'm completely wrong, but based on what he's showing me now, so this is the prediction on now. Based on what I'm seeing now, there are way too many awkward, limiting feelings and limiting energy and limiting words and phrases. There's way too much limiting behavior for me to believe that he is comfortable and confident in this. I feel like there's a part of him that's probably wondering, oh my God, what did I do? So that is Matt and Amber. You know, let me know what you guys thought, of course. I made this video a little longer than I thought for an episode that I thought was like not that great, but I hope you guys learned something. Let me know what you guys thought. As always, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like, and I will see you guys next week. Everyone have a great weekend.